Oh, hello there, welcome back. It is a Super Sunday. My oh my, we are having loads of fun today. What an incredible start to the day we had already. That incredible soft side show with myself and Bernie. That was so much fun, but now we're talking about craft class. So if you're a newbie, you are going to absolutely love this show. If you've been with us a while and you're an experienced crafter, there's going to be loads of hints, tips and techniques that you can pick up. But craft class is all about taking it back to basics a little bit more, you getting all your questions in with us. Basically, I like to think of it as like a creative cravings version of a masterclass. That's how I like to think about it. So we will rely on you to get all your questions in for us. And also, we've got a great teacher for you today as well. I am rejoined by the lovely Jan. Jan, we were just saying how long it's been since we've worked together.
I know. When I was driving up this morning, Joe, I was just thinking, I was trying to work out when the last class that we'd done together, and I'm sure it's definitely a few weeks ago. I've been up most weeks, I think, over the last month or so. But yeah, it seems ages, doesn't it? So yes, I'm looking forward to this afternoon, Joe. It's always a good shows together. I think the double really J's. We've got J and J back.
We usually have a good giggle, don't we? Which there'll be no exception today. We've all been having a good giggle before the show. But all about stenciling then, Jan. So anyone that's maybe not tried it before or maybe just doesn't get the most out of it, this is going to be the class for them, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We touched on stenciling a few weeks ago and we had a really good response to it. So we've decided to throw them into the pot again, and we've got some few changes and sort of trying to look, you know me, I'm always looking outside the box. It's not the dead obvious. So I'm wanting to sort of try and show you some things that you might not have thought of with your stencils. You may have, but yeah, today my sort of note to myself when I was prepping for this one was, you know, yeah, we know how to put an ink through a stencil, and that's pretty much what I'm going to do on my first demo, just to start off basic. But as we go along, looking at how else you can use your stencils and what you can use with them, what mediums we can use with them other than just the ink. So yeah, a bit of everything this afternoon, so it should be a good show. Awesome.
Remember, if you want to get in touch with us, you can in all the usual ways. I can see Dawn's in this morning. She's ready for a craft class. Shelley's in Michigan. Karen from East Tennessee. Coney's in from New Jersey. Christine says good morning, everyone. Katie's in San Francisco. Laura's in Ohio, Laura. Karen is here as well. I can see Bettina too. Any questions that you've got as we go through? Because I think you will have lots of questions with this, because you know it's a technique that I know we talk about a little bit at the time, but we're going to really major on it. I think it's awesome. Stenciling, I'll tell you more later, Jan. Do you know what? Maybe I'll actually even find a picture for us a little later. Stenciling is something I have done in the past.
Oh,
I've
tell me more.
crafted some outfits. I'll try and find some pictures and we'll get them shown during the show. If you want to share with us any pictures of your stenciling, I'd love to see them. studio@craftscompanion.co.uk. We've got a phenomenal starter kit for you though, because this is going to have a little bit of everything that you need in here. It is awesome because what you've got, let me actually show you. I've got some lovely samples here to take you through what you are getting. These are the kind of projects you're going to be able to create in here. So you've got the gorgeous poppies, we've got some crafty fun in here. You've also got some of our focal point stamp and stencils, which is a stamp and stencil collection together. I love that. Also, these are fantastic. These launched recently. These are embossing folders with complementary stencil, which is awesome. And we're going to give you some liquid mediums in here as well. So you've got the perfect pastels coming your way in here, and that's a sparkle ink. I don't think that, oh, it is a shiny, there it is, we've got it. And you're also going to get as well the vintage chic, which has got the sage, pig and peony. Sage, fig and peony. It's going to be one of those days, Jan. You called it. You called it. Going to be very busy on that. It's a great starter collection. Also, don't forget about spend it, save it, craft it. If you spend £25 or dollars, you'll save 5. Spend 50, save 10. Spend 25, you'll save 15. Now, I'm excited about these because I know these were launched when we launched the Gemini Pro. You could use these through your Pro as an embossing folder. However, they are absolutely beautiful. Take a look at these. Large 12 by 12 ones. So if you love to scrapbook, of course, you're going to be able to do that. You've got the falling hearts there. This one, you've got loads in here for the price, by the way. Got the wood grain in here. You've also got sketched swirls. This one here is your confetti celebrations. Love that. Then we also have the dots and spots, as well as the Chesterfield leather. Oh, classy, isn't it? And this is the Decor tiles. Very geo. Love that one. And then finally the natural stone in here as well. I need to let you know that 10% of these is actually already gone. Very, very busy start to this show. Let me just whip through a few other items that I know are going to be really busy. The floral animals, or the flanimals as I started calling them, I don't know why. I can't say anything at the moment, Jan, honestly. I'm a hot mess. £31.96 or £44.98 if you want to get your hands on those. Big schmetterlings. These are awesome. Now, I know you got one of these in the starter kit. However, if you wanted to go for all 6 of these, they're a new launch, £44.99 or £58.27. We'll see those in more detail as we go through the show. The next one we've got is the background stencil and focal stamp. Love these. Really, really fun. Stamps and stencils together. Oh, hang on. Is that the right picture there for that item? The background stencil and focal stamp collection is details that are on your screen. We'll have a check of that. We'll just check that out for you. We'll get that sorted in a moment. Very busy there. Keep loads of you chatting away. I love Jan's shows, says Peg. I'm gonna dig those photos out, Jan, and we can all critique my stenciling. But I'm really looking forward to learning lots in this show, which is awesome. That's what craft class is all about, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I once stenciled round the top of my, all the way around the top of my kitchen. I just figured, it would add a nice element to it. It was one of those jobs that I started and I'd got one wall done and I went over the top of the door and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, why did you start it? Because it was actually quite a long way around all the kitchen by the time I'd done moving the stencil moving it along. But yeah, it did actually look quite effective. So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to see what you've been up to with the stencils, Jo. Yeah, so what we're going to do, we're going to start off a bit more basic, but I'm going to use those fabulous 12, but I love these 12 by 12 inch stencils. I've never come across stencils this big. I've seen an A4 stencil. I've got quite a few A4 ones in my collection, but 12 by 12 just opens up a whole new sort of opportunity, particularly for you scrapbookers out there. I know last time I was here, we did a bit of scrapbooking, but this actually gives you the opportunity to work sort of, if I just put that on the back there, you can see, it's not the best thing to see, is it? Well, that's better there, yeah. You can see we've got that whole 12 by 12 area, so you can then start and choose whether you wanted to do the whole thing as a block, as a background, or just pick out elements of it just think about that on a Valentine's scrapbook and then just add in little elements of the stenciling into your background. Really opens up that opportunity to do larger spaces. Having said that, we're actually going to work with a large stencil on a small space today. So I've only actually got quite a small piece of cardstock, which doesn't mean that you can't use a bigger stencil. I just love the actual designs on these stencils, and I picked the heart one. Me, a bit of a pink girl. We're starting with the pink, but I have tried to use other colours through the demos. So my starting cardstock was a piece of white stamping card, and I think if I remember rightly, it's 6.5 inches square, which is what I wanted for my finished project. And all I've done to it is I'm working with our opaque ink pads on this particular project, and all I've done is used a stencil brush to just lightly brush it over the top, and it's not obvious that it's actually coloured. Let me just grab a piece of white. If I show you the white against it, you can see the difference. It's just tinted it slightly with the pale pink to take off that stark white background. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the other two pinks, which is fuchsia and my plum jam, one of my favourites, and we're going to use those through the stencil. And I'm also going to bring in, you've seen me using these before, I've got my little set of daubers with me as well, so I'm going to use those, and I'm just going to pinch the ones that match my two. You can tell my plum jam one's well loved. It's starting to crack a little bit because it's been used that much, look. Right, so let's pop those to one side. So what I'm going to do,
like you just said, Jan, you were talking about decorating there, weren't you? But stenciling, we talk about, crafting, but also painting as well. But also like upcycling furniture and stuff like that. I know that's so popular, isn't it?
Absolutely.
These big 12 by 12 ones, you could even use those on things like paving slabs and stuff, I'd imagine, to decorate patios and things. So I guess it leads itself into so many other sort of types of crafty stuff.
It does, and sort of discovering new mediums to work with as well. It's like I've got one or two different bits and pieces to use for you this afternoon rather than just the inks. We tend to go, with the crafting, we tend to go for the inks quite a bit. And I started out with the inks, but I've got one or two other bits and pieces that I'm going to bring into the pot for you. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to choose which part of the stencil I want to work with. But just before I pop that on, pop my tape down. I want to mask off some of the area, so I don't want it all stenciled. So what I'm going to do is actually just sort of eyeball where I want that bottom piece that's not going to be stenciled. And I'm just using some sticky notes that have got that little bit of sticky on the back. And I'm literally going to make like a masked out area so that I don't get the ink on this bottom section of the cardstock. I just wanted to leave a gap to pop my sentiment in. So again, I'm just using the ruler to get my paper straight, just along there. And then that one on the back there. So we've just created a nice line there where we don't want the ink, and then choose which part of your stencil you're actually going to work with. And again, you know, whichever bit takes your fancy. I like to make sure some of these are going off the edge of the card so that they're not all sort of within the area that I'm working with. And then I'm going to take my pigment inks. So I'm going to use some clear embossing powder. So before we actually start with the inks, I'm just going to use my little anti-static pad again, because we're going to do some heat embossing. So in here is sort of a powder that resists the electricity, to be honest.
Okay.
So if you haven't got one of these, you could use things like talc, cornstarch, things like that. But what it does...
Did I hear someone say about a tumble dry sheet, or am I making that up?
A dry,
like a dryer sheet,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's dried, yeah, no problem. It's basically just to get rid of any static. Embossing powder is very good at sticking to things, which is what we want it to do, but we only want it to stick to the bit that we want. So to get rid of any fingerprints or anything else, it's just good for removing those bits and pieces. So I'm going to get my embossing powder at the ready, and I've just got a clear... you've seen my tub of embossing powder before. All right, I'm going to get that at the ready, because once we've done the inking, we're literally going to go with the embossing powder. So with the fuchsia first, which is your mid-tone, I'm just going to use my ink dauber. I'm just going to hold this in place. If you want to actually tack it down, let me just show you on the back. Once you've decided where you want to put it, you can actually pop your tape. I've just got some low-tack tape there. Just pick it up from the back, turn it over, and just stick it to a couple of bits on the stencil if you're worried about it moving. So just pick a couple of bits out where there's a bit more stencil and stick it down so it's not actually going to move around too much. So again, ink dauber on, and all I'm going to do now is just little circles and fill in that stencil. And because I'm using the pigment ink, it stays nice and wet on the top of the card, so it's going to give me time to actually add that embossing powder. So you could actually be using some of your... I wouldn't recommend quick dry inks for the stenciling, purely because they're literally going to dry as soon as they hit the cardstock, and they're not as easy to move around. But your water reactive inks and your pigment inks are brilliant for this. Now, as I say, because I want to emboss, I've chosen the pigment inks. But you could actually put things like your modelling paste through here if you want to use a bit of texture. We're going to do that on one of the demos later. You could use, if you've got any glitter pastes or anything like that lying around, you could pop those through the stencil. Gives it a little bit more texture rather than the ink is just working flat.
Loads of people chatting away with us. Adams Rose says, good morning. Joe's looking dapper today. Thank you very much, Adams Rose. Maureen says, hello, happy crafters. I'm busy adding my new purchases to my computer spreadsheet. Helps me keep up to date with what I have. Elbow cough. Look forward to the show. I don't know what elbow cough means, but elbow cough, I don't know. Oh, oh, I see. I get it. It's like a sort of pandemic version of... Love it, thank you. Do you get it, Jan?
I do, yes.
I love it.
I do now you've explained it. I didn't. I'm thinking.
I didn't know me neither. Maureen,
yeah. But yeah, I get where we're coming from.
Thank you for that term, Maureen.
Takes me a while to catch up, Joe.
Me too. Claire says, first time here, I've caught tail ends, but made it on time for the first one. Oh, I'm so glad to have that you made it. Claire. Peg says, I love Jan's shows. Kathy says, after the last stencil show, I finally pulled mine out. Now I'm totally hooked. They make amazing backgrounds. Hadassah as well says, Jan is a master teacher, so excited for this class. I have a ton of stencils which I never use, but only because I don't have ideas for them. Well, let's hope, Adassa, that after this show you are inspired and you liberate those unused stencils from your crafty stash.
That's my job, really. It really is. And as I say, we had a lot of feedback from the last show where I had people messaging me saying, I've got my stencils out, I've not used them for ages. And I had a couple of people sending me pictures of what they'd done with them, you know. And that sort of makes me happy because it makes me feel as if, you know, what I'm doing here, people are actually learning something from. So all that's just the fuchsia on there. And then what I'm going to do is take the plum jam, and I just want to add a little bit of definition over the top, and this is going to stay wet, so don't worry about timing and things like that.
Can we do all of these techniques pretty much you're going to show us with all of our different stencils in this show?
Yes, doesn't matter what stencil it is.
Awesome.
Yeah. The 3D folders and stencils work slightly differently, but anything that's just a flat stencil, you could apply this to any of them. So I'm just coming from the bottom of the hearts now. And all I want to do is just flick a little bit of that darker ink up from the bottom, and it doesn't look that obvious. Whoops. If it wriggles out of place like that, just pop it back. So literally just from the bottom, it will be more obvious when I remove the stencil that you can see that little bit of definition at the bottom. So all I'm doing is just literally flicking it up as if I'm coming all from this bottom angle. So as if the light's coming from the top and the shade is coming from the bottom. So I'll just finish those off quickly, and then we're going to dip it in the embossing powder and make that magic happen.
I love heat embossing so much, Jan.
It never gets old, Joe. It's one of those techniques. I started out, like you've heard me say, started out stamping and embossing, and I still to this day, I've been crafting for like what, probably the best part of 18 years, and I still love going back to my inks and embossing powders. So pop that to one side. I'm going to take the tape away because I don't want that to get covered in embossing powder. And then all I'm going to do is literally, and this is why I decant my powder into a bigger container, it just makes it a little bit easier. And you can see, look, even though all that time, it's still wet enough to attract that embossing powder. It's still sticking. Can you see how it's going sort of opaque? Yeah. So you've got plenty of time to work with those pigment inks. They really are terrific for this sort of effect. So again, all over there, just to get all that ink covered, and then we're going to bring the heat tool out. So once you've got all those covered, make sure they've all got a good coating of the embossing powder, and then I'm going to take these away now because I don't want to burn the paper, but can you see how it's masked and given me that line there where it's not took any of the detail? So what I'm going to do with this one then, let me just get rid of, I was a little bit, get that off there. And then what I'm going to do, again, heat embossing, we've talked about this, you know, whether you do it from the top or underneath, similar kind of effect. You get less what I call like pitting if you work from underneath. So you get a smoother, slightly smoother finish. I'm going to work from underneath today just so that you can see this magic happening. It's a great one for the camera to see. So just letting the heat tool heat up. The longer you have the heat on the card, the more the card will warp. A lot of people say to me, my card's warped out of shape with the heat tool. So get it up to heat first. Make sure it's up to the temperature it can be, the hottest it can be. And then just focus. I'm going to focus up here on this top corner from the back of the cardstock. So the heat's got to get through the cardstock, but as soon as it does, you can see now
it sort of glazes it, doesn't it?
And all I'm going to do is chase that embossing powder around until we've got all of those hearts nice and glossy. So again, it's just going to take a minute or so to do this, Joe.
Not a problem.
A lot
of people still chatting away. Debbie says, I've never used a stencil, so I'm here to learn. Also, never used the prism sprays that are on the show. Place an order and save the show so I can watch it a little bit later. Loads of those on the website. Joe says, can't wait to learn some new stenciling techniques. Kathy says, oh, those large stencils look fab. They are fab. They're a great price as well. Leela Hayes says, never used stencil before. Looking for ideas and inspirations, working on my first mini album. Deborah Allen says, stenciling a room is a lot of work. I've done it. I'm not sure I'd do it again. Maybe start with a smaller project, you know, maybe start with like a 5x5 card and then before going on to just a whole room straight away. Kathy says you could stencil a wall with a larger stencils. Absolutely you could. Mary Pat is ecstatic, she says, about the 12x12 stencils. Scrapbooking Heart is very, very happy. Eve's got the Daubers and loves them. And Renee says, oh, so glad to see you using sticky notes. She loves using sticky notes for masking. She does it a lot. Misty saying, Jan is such an amazing instructor. I learned so much. She always has so many helpful tips. Coney asks, great question actually. Is this a silly? No such thing as a silly question, Coney, firstly. Could you use a brayer for the larger stencils to apply the ink over?
The only difference with brayer in it is that you've got a slight level difference between where the stencil is and your cardstock. So the brayer is great for anything that's flat. So if you're wanting to keep a flat surface, the brayer will really sort of keep it in shape. But to go over a stencil, I think you'd be struggling to push it into the gaps from the stencil.
Okay.
It wouldn't be my first choice, Joe, for a stencil.
Because it needs to be something more spongy, wouldn't it? Rather
yeah,
than
I mean,
firm.
the sponge applicators that we sell, the round ones and the rectangle ones are great for this. Or the little eggs, the little sponge eggs that we do, they work just the same. I just happen to have my daubers to hand. I tend to use the daubers with my pigment inks for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay.
So just to finish this bit off, and I've done a little bit from the top to try and show you the difference in the embossing, what I meant about heating it from the reverse versus heating it from the front.
There's a bundle available on the square blending tool, the round blending tool, and those little blending eggs as well. It's on the bottom of your screen just there at the moment. $9.50 or $12.50. Great deal there.
So we're just about there. I've just got those last couple to do.
I love this because there's with these bigger stencils, the 12x12s, there's a lot, isn't there? Like a lot of options for you with them being bigger.
I can hear you now, Joe. I was struggling to hear you.
Oh,
with that
turn it back
well.
on. It was a blessing for you. Bit of respite, Jan.
Oh dear.
Johnny's saying you didn't need to heat it for that long. You were just doing it for a rest, apparently, from me.
Everybody just started, Joe. But no, I mean, one of the things that I want to try with these larger ones is actually mixing and matching them as well, Joe, so you don't have to just use one stencil. You know, this, I could have masked this in half and used the hearts at the top and one of the other designs at the bottom. You could mask it into 4 different pieces and do 4 different ones on there, so yeah. But what I want to try and do, if we can just zoom in a little bit, Charlotte, if I hold this straight for you, is this top area we did with the heat tool underneath. And if I can just get that to, where are we? Let's have a look. There, can you see this top corner here versus the one down here? Can you see how there's more? Let me just see if I can get it in the light again. There, look. Can you see how there's more pitting?
Oh, yes.
It's like orange peel.
Yeah.
And I find that's the difference. That was heating it from the top.
Yeah.
Whereas this one up here was heating it, and it's a bit more glassy, a bit smoother. So that's the only difference. People ask me all the time, you know, why heat from the top, why heat from the bottom? Do whichever you actually prefer.
If you add multiple layers of the heat embossing, does it give you a smoother effect, or does it add to that sort of stippling even more?
No, the more embossing powder you add, the glassier it will go.
Oh,
so
nice.
What we call triple embossing will give you the effect that it's actually like a glass surface on the
super
top.
Smooth.
That's not as easy with something like this, because obviously you'd have to be very quick while this was still warm to get more embossing on top of it. But it's great for things like stamped images. If you want to stamp and emboss, if you're using something like your stamping platform where you can overstamp with the sticky ink, build up that powder and you get a really nice glassy finish.
Awesome.
So once this has cooled down, just give it a couple of seconds to cool down, and it's tacky when it first finishes. All I'm going to do is just buff it now to get rid of that excess powder that we put on there. Don't want that on there. And this is what we've ended up with. We've actually got that lovely panel there we could use on our card. Now, you know me, it's never as straightforward as just using that panel on a card.
Do you know what I'm wondering is why you've masked the bottom bit off? That's the bit I was wondering. That's the burning question I've got for you, Jan.
There you go. So if I bring in one that I actually did at home, you know, I like chopping things up. So here we go, you can see, and I've matted this on a little tiny bit of our glitter card, but you can see here we've got, if I lay them over the top, you can see that we've got that sort of masked area coming in. So all I've done is I've cut it in half originally, and then instead of going for quarters, I've slightly offset it so that we've got a shorter panel and a longer panel. And the reason, Joe, your answer is coming, the reason I left that one like that was so that I could actually put my sentiment in there.
I love that.
I didn't want to stamp over the top of the
That's
hearts.
incredible.
Okay, so what I'm actually doing with this one is I'm going to make like a little bit of a home
So
decor
what are we calling
piece.
this? Are we going to call it a wonky quarter card?
A wonky what?
A wonky quarter card.
A wonky quarter card.
There
You
you go.
can call it that if you wish
So we
to.
can call it that. All right, brilliant.
A wonky
You
quarter.
made a new
'cause
one
we've
up
got
there.
Cut it straight, yeah. So let me just get rid of that ink off there. And what I've done is I've just used some stamping card again. Picked some paper out of one of my paper pads, and I've made sort of like a wall hanging plaque, a little bit of ribbon on there. Even I'd have to finish off the back as well, look where the ribbon is, because my OCD won't let me just stick ribbon on the back. So what we're actually going to do, and yeah, do you know my lifelong fight with foam pads?
Yeah.
I found a new product, Joe.
Oh.
And it's on our website, and
Right.
it was hiding in plain sight. We sell
Right.
foam sheets that come in
Right.
A4 pieces. Have a look on the website. Double-sided foam sheets. No, not double-sided. They're actually foam sheets. And you cut them up to whatever size you want. So instead of me having to take all those
Right.
backs off the foam pads, watch this, Joe. Let me
Oh,
just...
so it's just one piece of pad.
Look.
Look at that.
Oh my goodness, where have you been all my life? Honestly. So yes, I've made a new friend this week because I was getting so actually frustrated with the backs of my foam pads.
I think I've only ever
Craig
seen
popped
them.
in the other day, bless him, and I had him taking the backs off my foam pads for me.
I have seen them on air, but only once, I think, ever.
Yeah.
Maybe
I might have
in
to
a
have a little
Sarah
chat.
cartload, I think I saw them
I
once.
might
but-
have to have a little chat with our Emma and see if we can get them on one of the polls.
Yeah, well, they're in
brilliant,
stock actually right
so
now
look,
on the
they're
website.
Just one big, oh, heaven. Heaven. So all I'm going to do then is just sort of leave an even border around the edge, which gives me a gap in between as well. And just pop these on the back. And as I say, I wanted to go with that sort of, those wonky quarters, Joe, I like that. Just to give it a bit more definition, really, a bit more, so that's on there. And then we've got that last one there.
This could be the demo of the show. This
Okay.
could even be the demo of the week, Jan.
Oh, now there's a lot of competition for demo
Stiff
of the week.
competition this week.
And don't forget, we've got our Ben crafting along with me at the beginning of the week. So
Absolutely.
he did his scrapbook page. So, yeah, there's lots of things going off on there. So we've
Craft
got
Along
those on
was
there.
good yesterday as well. I mean, there's a lot. There's a balloon animal up there. I mean,
And then I've just got a few little bits of embellishment. So this was one of my heart dies at home that I've just done out of the matching paper that was left over from the back. And I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue just for speed on there. Hang on a sec. There we go. Ooh.
I just for a second there thought that you were tapping the excess glue off onto your arm, and I was thinking, gosh, you're going to burn yourself. What I couldn't see
Now,
was that you're
little
pushing your
top
glue stick in.
tip for your glue gun. When you put your new glue glue stick in, just actually warm the end of it, and then when you pop it back in here, it will stick to the one that's already in there. So it stops it, because mine always end up popping back out again. I have terrible trouble with them. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to place this one as a feature. And then, as you know, last week we were playing with those lovely little nitwit creatures, and I'd got some spare ones left over from a demo. So I've got my little kitty cats, which is where
cute.
they have a perfect day. So I've just stamped those out, and I've actually coloured them with my alcohol markers. So I thought we'd use a couple of those. They were just left over from our demos last week. So I don't like to leave them if I've already done the work. So we're
Awesome.
just going to pop those on there. And again, I've made it sort of as a wall hanging. So, you know, this could easily be the doggies, if you've got those doggies from that kit. I know a lot of you were crafting along with me last week when we did the scrapbook page. So again, it could be flowers. If you've got the floral decoupage papers that Debbie was using yesterday, you could build up a nice spray of flowers on there. And then I've just got a little tiny bit of ribbon to match what I've got at the top here. And I'm just going to pop that on the
I think
top
that's
of there.
awesome.
So
Really
again,
awesome.
just
It's
a way
awesome.
of using that stencil in the background there. But it could just as easily have been one of the other stencils that we've got in the show. But I just love those 12-inch ones are going to be a favourite of mine. I think they're going to be a go-to. So you can see there we've got those lovely little kitties, have a perfect day, and we've got that little hanging piece on it, so you could actually pop this on the wall if you wanted to give it to somebody as a gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okey
You could.
dokes.
They are awesome.
Whoops.
Loads of people chatting away. A lot of people asking about Felicia being one of them. How you clean your stencils, Jan?
Right, okay, good question. Right, let me just grab a spare piece of paper. I want a piece of... Do you know, I've got all
Rummaging in
papers.
the craft vault down there, Jan.
All sorts of paper down here. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to bring it back on here. Okay, and this is where it gets a bit messy. So I'm just going to take a baby wipe, all right, because all the ink's water-based, so it'll literally, if you want to just take it to the sink,
right,
you can actually run it under the tap with a little bit of soapy water and remove all this, because the ink's actually still wet, because it's on the stencil and not the cardstock. It's not dried, it will stay damp. But what I like to do is just to take my baby wipe, I've got a piece of cardstock, any scrap card underneath, and again, if we just go on here gently and actually rub, I'm cleaning the stencil.
Oh, you putting the ink on the page?
But I'm rubbing the ink through onto here, and this will make me another background for another project.
How fabulous.
So this will go in my background folder. I have a little folder that has all this sort of thing in. So when I'm stuck for something, if I want something really quick, so my stencil's clean.
How
okay,
fantastic
so all I would do
is that?
now is just use my dry cloth to actually give that a wipe over. Goes back in my packet. In fact, what I'm actually going to do with these is what I've done with some of my smaller stencils. I've punched a hole in the corner with my big crocodile punch, and I've put them on a book ring, and I have them hung in one of my boxes in my craft room, because I had quick access to them, and then you can just flick through them on the book rings without having to take them in and out of the packets. If you want to keep a reference point as to what they are, just one of your marker pens on top will actually mark the name of the stencil on it. So again, you can keep them in the packaging. It's just that I seem to get overloaded with packaging, Joe. So by taking them out and just writing a little note that they're falling hard, so you could label them if you've got a label maker, and keep them all together.
Awesome.
But then you've actually got here that sort of watercolour background for free.
Brilliant.
You know,
Love
then
that.
you know you could be stamping over that. You could be cutting it up again. I could actually, because this is actually a little bit watery, I think I'd be tempted to take one of my pens and do a little bit of arty sort of lines around them, just to sort of make them pop off the page a little bit. But yes, that goes in the background file.
Awesome.
Ready for future use.
Not like the X-Files, but way more inky, I'm sure, the background files. Karen says, I'm not used to seeing Joe without glasses on. Looking good. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, I've got my lenses in. I just forgot my glasses. Can't see what I'm doing today. June says, good morning, everyone. So fun to have Jan. Jan, show us how to use those large stencils and embossing and masking. Karen hadn't thought about using embossing powder on stencil images, but we'll definitely be going to go. Molly's come back, you know, elbow cough, Molly. She says, we called it an elbow cough, a vampire cough when I taught the kids, because it was like the vampire was trying to hide his face. I love that. The kids like that name better. They thought that was funny. I'm going to call it a vampire cough from now on. I think that's awesome. Kaz says, I've never used stencils before, but received one in the Crafts Companion magazine, so this is a perfect show to give me the inspiration I need, and also a great excuse to stock up on some more. Some loads of questions coming in as well. Marie says, what is the best thing to avoid the embossing powder from sticking to the paper where there is no ink? I think you did cover that briefly, didn't you, in that last demonstration?
Yeah, I use my little anti-static pad, which we should be on the website. And all it is a little pouch filled with powder. And I'm not quite sure what the powder is in there, but if you haven't got one, a little bit of baby talc, cheap as chips stuff. You don't have to buy anything branded, just cheap as chips. Pop it onto your card and use a brush to just try and brush most of it off. But what it does, it stops any static on your card. If you haven't got that, cornstarch works as well. So something that's literally going to absorb any moisture that's on your cardstock, and that should stop the embossing powder sticking to areas where you don't actually want it. It's the idea of it.
Awesome. I hope that helps. Loads of you still chatting away as well. Gillian says she just bought the stamping and stenciling. Lucinda says the love hearts are beautiful. What an interesting tip with the heat gun, says Terry Lee as well. I'm snowed under here with comments and questions coming in, so keep them coming in to me and I'll put them to Jan as we go through the show. Let me recap these large stencils. I love these. I think they are fantastic. If you do have the Gemini Pro, of course, you would be able to use these as embossing folders as well. But as a stencil, I just think they're brilliant. I know so many of you love working on 12 by 12 size projects. So these are going to be great for that. The next one, so this one here is the Moroccan tile, which is so on trend at the moment. This is the hearts here that you've just seen Jan using a moment ago. That's the wood grain, this one here. That's going to be great with some of your darker inks to add a distress effects, I'm thinking. You've got the sketched swirls, which is very abstract. I'm really liking that one. The confetti celebrations, I mean, that's just got parties written all over it, hasn't it? You've got spots, dots and spots. That's fantastic. More of an abstract one again there. This one here is your Chesterfield leather. Aren't you from Chesterfield, Jan? Are you from near Chesterfield?
Not far away from Chesterfield.
Do we know why Chesterfield sofas are called Chesterfield sofas?
I don't, and I should do, because
Maybe
I used to own 2 of them. When I first got married, I had 2 Chesterfield sofas.
Right.
And this will be a nice replacement. We did an embossing folder with this design in it, and it flew out. And I'm not sure whether we ever got it back in stock or not. I know people still ask about it now, but this is the same pattern that you could achieve this with a stencil rather than the embossing. And of course, you can emboss your stencils, which I'm going to show you how to do later in the show as well.
Gorgeous. So Chesterfield, you've got the deco tiles. I love that. And also then you've got as well the natural stone. Right, Chesterfield sofas are called Chesterfield sofas because the style of the sofa was originally commissioned by Lord Philip Stanhope, who was the 4th Earl of Chesterfield. Someone's feeding all that information, by the way.
An encyclopedia there, Joe.
Let me just recall that knowledge. 1694 from memory to 1770, died in 1773. Gave us the Chesterfield sofa. There you are. Excellent. Every day is a school day here at Crafts TV. Don't miss out on those stencils. £47 for those. Let me move on to what has got to be surely the deal of the show. Now, I think do you get 4 or 3 in this configuration just here? You get 4 in here, I believe. I've got boards for 3 of them. So you get the delicate daisies, which are these ones just here. Now, the awesome thing is you're building up to this finished product just here. You're going to use the 3 different stencils in order to layer that up. It means you can add all those different colours. You've also got the radiant roses in here as well. And you are getting this one here, which is the pretty peonies. You're going to get the perfect poppies as well, which is this one just here that I talked about earlier. So you've got that one in there too. £11.18 or £16.78 if you want to go for those right there. Oh, you know, I teased you at the top of the show, Jan, with some pictures of me stenciling. We found those pictures. I made some t-shirts a couple years back, coming up to 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, I think it will be. Hang on, when was it? It was 2020. And it was when we were going to Eurovision in Tel Aviv. So the lovely Hannah Oxbury actually made these stencils for me on Scan and Cut. And then I took glitter paste as well. And I used stick and spray also to do this. So I stenciled on that bit first in the different glitter paste. And then I used some spray paint to fill in the middle bit with a heart. And then I made them for me and all my friends. And we all wore them at the final Eurovision.
That is stunning, Joe. That's not beginner's level stenciling. Let's just jump in at the tough stuff.
That was the first thing I'd ever crafted.
That's absolutely stunning.
It was my first ever crafty project. Do you know what I did though, Jan?
You could have made a little business going on there.
I didn't heat set the glitter paste and I washed it and all the glitter came off.
Yes.
Everything was glittery.
A lot of things like that are just for show unless you set it, yeah.
But I tell you what I found was when I first stenciled for the first time was that stick and spray was like the holy grail for me. It was like, it went from being smushing everything everywhere, especially on something stretchy like a t-shirt, to it all sort of staying together. I might make some more for this. Maybe I'll work on a different design for this year. It didn't happen last year, obviously. Right, moving on. We want to go to the Flanimals that are down here, the gorgeous floral animals. Now, I love these because you've got the Schmetterling in here, that gorgeous big Schmetterling. It's your floral butterfly. Really awesome, this. Loads of texture in there, also loads of dimension. You've got the wolf in here. You've also got the hare, which is going to be great for Easter, isn't it? And you've got the stag in there too. You get all 4 of those for £31.96, which is brilliant. £25.57 or £35.98 as a platinum member. Do not forget also that you are able to use the spend it, save it, craft it, which is running all day today. I'll only have to remember, try and attempt to say that, Jan, for one more day until the end of today. We've been saying it since Friday. I think I've only got it right about 4 times out of 100. So
it's a bit of a tongue twister.
Basically what it means is when you spend £25, you save 5. You spend £50, you save 10. Spend £75, you'll save 15, which is great. You need to get to those levels with your club discount already taken off, and then we'll automatically give you that extra discount at the checkout, which is awesome. Right, there is, there's a lot of admiration for my jumper on social. Thank you very much for that. My friend actually made this for me, my friend John. I saw a jumper online, Jan, that was like lots of money, a designer one, right?
I can imagine.
Primark sweater, some felt pieces, sewn on, costs about £9 in total.
Do you know, I've been stood 2 metres away from you, Joe, and I thought that was knitted in there. But then my eyes are not the best either.
Yeah, they're just, it's just some stitched little
pieces.
That
is amazing. You're very creative, Joe.
I had the idea, but I can't take any of the credit because my friend John stitched it for me.
Yeah,
but great. Yeah. So I saved myself about £90, I think, which was wonderful.
Bargain.
Right, I know there's lots of questions, so I'm going to run on through these, and we'll do a bit of a Q&A, Jan, if you fancy it, at the end of this hour, so in about 20 minutes. How's that sound?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's
Brilliant.
what I'm here for, you know, and if you've got any question, don't ever be afraid. There is nothing as, you know, as such as a silly question. We've all started somewhere. Even I started somewhere and I was asking questions, so don't ever be afraid to pop your questions through, and I will try my best to answer them if I can. If not, we've got the means of finding out the answers for you.
Fabulous.
So what we're going to do now then, we're going to come on to those floral animals, but the reason I wanted these on the show was because we're not just going to die cut them and make a project with the die cut elements. We're actually going to use the die and cut it out and use it as a stencil because we've got a stenciling show. Now you can do this with a lot of you. Once you see what I'm going to do with this, it will open up a whole sort of wardrobe of sort of, if you're thinking, I could do that with such and such a die. I could do that with the outline dies, for example, would be great. The creator card, those new big scene creator cards would do this technique. So you'll be able to think about what you've got in your stash, even if you haven't got the floral animals. We've popped them on the show today. Brilliant price for you if you haven't got them. But as I say, there's all sorts of different ways you can do this with different dies that you've got in your stash. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut him out first. I'm just going to pop him through the Gemini and actually cut out the whole thing. I've just got some brown textured cardstock and I want the whole thing with the outline. So just a little bit of tape, and I've just been rummaging downstairs for, that sounded well, didn't it? Rummaging downstairs. Joe's just spat his drink out.
I was just trying to have a sip of my coffee, Jan. What are you doing to me?
It's one of those things that sounded all right in my head, and then when I heard it out loud, I thought, oh, really?
Just glad there weren't drawers involved.
What I was saying was, I was looking for my junior plates, and I can't find them, so oops-a-daisy. So...
What are you looking for? Oh, if you can't find anything, honestly, everything went into a totally Tiffany container last night.
There's me rummaging away downstairs and he's saying in my ear that they've put them in a bag yesterday, last night on the shot. I bet they're still there. There's no wonder I can't find them, is there? So we're going to have to wait 18 seconds now, Mr. Producer. So this goes through our large Gemini. But all I want to do is actually cut out the shape.
Awesome.
So let me just pop those through there. That's why I've got to put my Gemini out. And I'm also going to show you how to emboss with the stencils as well later on with the Gemini. But I want the outline as part of the finished project.
Gillian just bought her first purchases to try stamping and stenciling. Great tips, and she's really thankful for all of the hints and tips, Jan, which is nice. And Lucinda says, so nice to see these beautiful love hearts. First thing to start my morning, so thank you, Jan. How lovely is that?
You're welcome. Right, so we've seen this lots of times when we've done the show. We actually want to just take him and literally take the that outlines piece there. Let me just get rid of all the tape. Slowly does it, Jan. I didn't need the outline die on, I just needed the actual piece there. So let's get rid of all those, and then I'm just going to use my pokey tool to take out, where's the release hole? There we go. I just want the actual die cut out of the stencil, and I'll clean that up in a little while. So I think, looking at that, most of those pieces have come out of there. So what we're going to do then is we're going to cut into the stencil. So again, let me just bring some white card up so that you can see what I'm actually doing. So what I want to do here is I want to use this half of the die cut as a die cut. but I just felt that these would lend themselves to actually stenciling through. So what I've done is wherever it's got the fine lines as opposed to the thicker set lines, I'm going to snip out. So where those fine lines are, everything that's in the middle, I'm literally, and I've got one of these done, I'll show you what I mean with the end project. I just wanted to show you from where the die cut starts. So anything that's anchored in the middle of there, I want to just snip out so that I've got a complete gap here. So again, I've got a little fine lines on the little rosebud part here. So I'm just going to snip, I've got my little tiny snips, and if you just come in and just where it's attached, I want to leave the outline in place.
Oh, okay, so not taking the outline away.
I don't want all the, I'm not cutting the whole thing off, I'm keeping the outline. I want to have the shape with the whole outline. So can you see there again? Let me just take that bottom one. How again, we've got gaps in there now.
Awesome.
So if I actually bring this one in, because it did take a little while just to snip it, you can see what I mean by we're taking these ones out. So I've got a bit missing here, I've got some bits missing here. Okay, so let's pop that bit to one side. So that's the first thing. And then the next thing I've done is actually take just some white stamping card, and I've cut it again a couple of times. So I've done exactly the same as what we did here and done it a couple of times, but it's all intact now. I've not cut anything away from this one, so it's actually quite a decent thickness now. And I've masked off all the area which was actually the wolf. So all this side, which is the animal, I've actually masked off with my masking tape. I just want to work with the floral elements. And then what I'm going to do is I actually dug my art liners out.
Oh,
so
nice.
These are actually the fine tip coloured art liners, which again, these live in my colouring trolley. And I'm just going to pick a couple of colours out of there. I want the orange one and the green one. And what I'm going to do onto my background piece, this is the background piece that I've got ready, just a piece of cream to fit in with my finished project. And what I'm going to do is position this where I want it to fit to go. Okay. And where I've got all the flowers, I'm literally going to draw, and I used to do this when I was younger with stencils. I used to love doing it, particularly with lettering stencils. Anywhere there's a gap, I'm literally just going to draw inside it with the colours. So all the flowers will be in the orangey colour. So literally work your way around, just through all the pieces here. And all I'm working on is those open areas. All right, and again, I've got one of these finished for you so that you can see where I'm heading with it. And then where the leaves are, I'm going to go in with the green pen. So underneath, you're actually creating sort of like a negative image from where the stencil is. I'm also going to bring it onto these pieces of foliage at this side as well. Okay, so just literally following round, and anybody can have a go at this. All I'm doing is just tracing through the stencil, and then back to the orange where that flower is. And I'm not going to do it all, as I say, just a little bit of patience to get through the stencil. But when I bring in the one that I've actually done, you'll see what I mean. So here, you can see where I've actually, when I remove the stencil away, you can see how this is coming together.
Nice, I like that.
Yeah, so you can see here where it's gone a bit further.
It reminds me of when you foil a normal die through the foil press.
Yes, you just get that sort of outline image. So let's move those to one side. And then what I've done then is I've chosen a couple of my tri-blends that match those two pens. So with the orange one, I've got a coral blend there. Just make sure I get the right lids on. And then I've got a green one to go with the green. And what I've done is I've coloured in those images, literally.
Nice.
So I've just taken my tri-blend, no fancy colouring,
just one
what
flat
I call
colour.
my flat colouring, no blending or anything like that. I've just, wherever I've drawn those lines in, I've literally just taken the corresponding colour and then coloured it in. So it's almost like making it sort of full again, but literally just by colouring it. So again, we've not touched on the inks this time. You could actually cut this out and ink through it as a stencil, but I just wanted to try and bring you some different mediums that you can use with the stencil. So again, when you've coloured it all in, you're actually going to place this one back over the top and line it up. And can you see how you've got that sort of different effect going on.
Really different, isn't it?
So if I bring the one in that I've actually finished there, you can see I just did a little bit of blue in his eye, and then you've got all that gorgeous panel down this side. So it's still the floral animal dye. You can still see clearly there that is the wolf. But again, you've got that lovely stenciling. So again, just to make it into an actual project, we've got some matting and layering done. And just pop this together nice and quick now. So again, I've just chosen some craft cord for the background and some papers, whatever papers you fancy. If you're like me, you've got thousands and thousands of paper pads.
Oh, I'm sure.
Honestly.
I reckon you could give Christine Mahoney a run for her money.
Way too many.
She's the proclaimed paper pad queen of Crafters TV. I don't know how much she's got. She won't tell me.
I've just bought some new storage boxes for them because they were getting to the point where they were just littering it all over the floor.
You know what you need for them, don't you? The lowest tote.
Yes.
Go in there beautifully. We had those on the show last night.
Was it? I know I saw Debbie post a picture of that, and I think she said she got something like 25 paper pads in it. Yeah, which is more than I can fit in my. I've got a box that those 12 by 12 boxes, and I think you can only get about 5 in one of those. Right. So yeah, all I've done is just pick some coppery coloured thread out to keep in with that theme, and then I've made another background piece. And again, because it was my lovely glitter card, I've taken the centre out to use on something else, so we're not going to see the rest of it. I just wanted the frame. So this one's going to go on here. Just give that a second. And again, here it is, look. It's, absolutely brilliant. So all you do is take the backing off one side. So I'm literally just going to lift one piece off here to stick to the bottom. And it comes off in one great big piece, look. And this is actually going to give me a little bit of dimension to put that topper on. And then this one has a little bit that's for release anyway. And just, oh, I'm in love, honestly. My love of foam pads has returned. And then this one's just going to pop on that little bit of dimension there. Okay. And then I've just stamped out a sentiment that I had lying around. So whatever's on my desk at the time, I've got that going, and I'm just going to I've put a foam pad on half of it because it's literally going to overhang that image. So a little bit of glue on that side, and then I've put the foam pad under this side to bring it up to the same level there. You brighten my day, Joe. That's what it says. Aww. You brighten my day. So there we go, awesome. Using those dies as stencils, and now you can see that finished project. You can see that would lend itself to lots and lots. So I want to have a go at it, as I say, with some of those new big scene dies. And imagine the balloon done with some of this inside it. Yeah?
I think going around with the fine liner as well, give it real definition. Because I thought to myself, why not just, colour the gaps in with the tri-blend? But actually having the line around completely changes it, doesn't it? It just
lifted it off the page a little bit, hasn't it? Yeah. So again, just something a bit different about utilising things that you may have already got in your stash. Or if not, as I said, we've popped those animals on the show for that reason.
Brilliant. Right, let me run you through those again. Then you've got to get, in this configuration, you're getting the floral butterfly. You're also getting the wolf as well, which is awesome. So there's the butterfly. You've got the wolf there. You're also going to get the hare, and you're going to get as well the floral stag there as well. 31.96 or 44.98. Use your Club Inspired discount as well, because that's going to give you even better discounts. In fact, why don't we give you a moment to check out your baskets and share with you all the awesome details of Club Inspire.
Welcome to Club Inspire, our free loyalty club. As a member of the club, you can save up to 20% every time you shop with us. For every £1 you spend, whether it's in one of our stores or on our website, you'll collect 1 loyalty point. The more points you have, the more benefits you'll receive. As a welcome present, we'll give you 20% discount with your very first order. Once you place your first order, you'll be given 250 points straight away, making you a bronze member. This will mean that you'll receive a 5% discount on all of your purchases until the end of the next calendar year, plus priority postage. 500 points takes you up to silver membership, where you'll get 10% discount plus free shipping when you spend over £20. When you get to 750 points, you'll become a gold member, which gets you a whopping 15% discount on every order, and we'll ship them to you completely free, no matter how big or small they are. Spend over £25 and we'll send them to you via our premium next day delivery courier service. When you reach 1,500 points, you'll become a Platinum member, giving you the same shipping benefits as a Gold member, but with the added bonus of a massive 20% discount on all of your purchases. Now on top of that, you'll receive exclusive discounts, sneak peeks of brand new products, special offers and money-saving vouchers. You'll have access to an exclusive secret Facebook group to meet like-minded friends, to find out information first and to be inspired by all the crafty makes. We'll send you a completely free quarterly Digimag direct into your inbox, giving you lots of hints, tips, inspiration, additional offers and some sneaky behind the scenes gossip from the team. So what are you waiting for? Become a member of our club today.
All the details there of Club Inspire, which is fantastic. Loads of people chatting away with us still in the comments, Jan, which we love. Stephanie, she's had a bit of a mare this morning, Jan. She says, I must be losing my mind between retirement and lockdowns. I was waiting and waiting while preparing to put a turkey in the oven. And after 15 minutes, finally a show popped up on YouTube and Joe was saying, it's Saturday. And then Debbie starts giggling. And then I realised, it's Sunday today. The wrong show was on because I knew I was waiting for Jan and Stencils. Multitasking overload is what she said. Well, I hope your turkey's fine and I'm glad you're in the right place now, Stephanie, but a good point that you can go and watch back any bits you missed at any point, any of our shows that you've missed at any time, back where you're watching them, so Facebook or YouTube or on our website, which is fantastic. Talking about the heat embossing, Karen said I always thought the pitting was due to the old embossing powder. Now I know I need to heat from underneath. Wonderful tip, Jan, so thank you for that. Some more questions coming. We're going to do questions very, very soon. Monica loves that foam sheet as well. She says that is also a beautiful card. Great tips today, says Shannon. Emma says the wall hanger would make a perfect Mother's Day gift. It really, really would. And Lynn says, I love it when the ink on the stencils is used for another background. No waste of ink, which is fantastic. Loads and loads of you chatting away, so I'll get through more as we go through the show. I've not had as many comments as we've had in this show in such a long time. There's loads of you chatting away, which is absolutely awesome. Brilliant. Any questions that you've got as well? And also, if people win, Jan.
Oh, wow.
Boom, they could win all of this.
For a comment, Mike. What have you got there today, Joe?
I know. Well, I've got so much. I've got money can't buy prizes in here, Jan.
Have you?
Because, look, this is these lovely enamel badges that I've got just here. These are awesome. You can't buy these, Jan. I'm not even able to get one of these. Look. We've got illustrators. We're going to give everyone a card as well at the moment. This is one of Debbie Fisher's, actually, from Friday last week. You've got a sentiment die, wrap dies. You've got stamps, embossing folders, more sentiments, some florals. No.
Are we shutting the door?
Shut the front. I shut all the doors.
I shut all the doors.
Shut the side doors.
Oh, my word.
The bold butterfly is in here.
Yeah.
It's not even in stock. This is the most popular Schmetterling I think we've ever brought to you. Stamps and dies in here as well, which are gorgeous. Foil stamp and cut dies, double-sided. Have you seen these? I don't remember these, Jan. Do you?
I'm struggling to see that far, Joe. What have
There's
you got?
Massive sentiments with happy and then all the stamps around.
Do you know, I think they've got a secret stash, Joe.
Is this something new that's coming up, do you think?
We need to go on a bit of a treasure hunt, I think, don't we? I've not seen
those
those
got to do is
before.
comment. You could win all of this. Look at the size of these. I don't ever recall seeing these. Massive. Yeah. Where's this coming from? Is this new stuff? There must be a secret stash somewhere. Because it's National Craft Month, all you've got to do is comment in any of our shows and we'll be giving away a daily giveaway. So today's is this absolute bounty of gorgeous crafting materials. So make sure you just comment. The more you comment, the more chances you will have of winning, which is fantastic, isn't it?
It's amazing.
So incredible. Right, let's go back. I need to recap. Oh, look, do you reckon that's a sign, Johnny? This enamel pin badge, rather than going back with the stuff, it actually landed right there next to my water bottle. Right next to my water bottle. One of them landed in Ben's pocket the other day. Honestly, Tracy frisked him down as he leaves and she found it apparently. Keep commenting and we'll pick a winner towards the end of the show. Right, let's go back to the floral layering stamps. These are far and away the busiest item on the show at the moment, and I can see why, because they should be £31.96 in the UK or £47.96 in the US. You're getting them for £11.18 today or £16.78. Well, you're not, because you're going to get them for even less than that, aren't you? Because with your Club Inspired discount, you're looking at £8.94 or $13.42. That is a whacking great saving for Platinum members of £23 or $34, which is unbelievable, and they are gorgeous as well. So you've got the delicate daisies there. This one, which is a radiant roses, which I love. This one here is your pretty peonies, and then also you get this one in here, which is the poppies as well. I didn't realise until not that long ago, you know, that poppies came in more colours than red. Do them in all sorts of different colours, which is absolutely awesome. Do get them. £11.18 is an absolute steal for those. Right. Now, loads of you still, lots of people loving all of your tips today. Coney says stencils on the book ring is a great idea. We'll be stealing that one. Will's loving all the stencils today as well. Mary says I've got you on all 3 screens. We are omnipresent in Mary's life. Current video is on one. Softer side is on another one, and yesterday is on another one.
Brilliant.
I'm trying to catch up on what I missed. One of me is bad enough. You don't want 3 of me on the go, Marie. Oh, I hope you got them all muted. Christine says, get ready to start crafting. Stenciling on tap. Wonderful stenciling, Joe. Lynn saying great job with the T-shirts that you did as well. And Hadassah loving the floral animals. Right, still got an hour left of this. Where's that last hour gone? It's flown by. Someone's stolen it, Jan.
Time flies, it does. When you come here and we're having fun, it just flies. I've said this many times. The minute I walk through those doors, my day just goes by in a sort of a whirlwind, honestly. Bit of crafting in between. So what we're going to do then, we're going to have a look at those layering stencils now. So this package bundle here is just a crazy, crazy price. And in each packet, you're getting 3 stencils. So the idea is that you layer up each stencil to get a finished project. So again, being Jan, we're going to throw a slight twist on it. We're going to stencil through 2 of them, but the background one we're going to emboss over the top of the actual stenciled image. So just to show you how to do embossing. Plus, the 3rd one in each of the packets is always a background stencil. So that lends itself then to being used independently for just something as if you wanted just to fill in a little gap for something on a background. It doesn't have to be used in conjunction with them all. These 2 obviously make up the layers, but this one adds the background in. So each of those 4 different stencil sets that we've got has got a different background in it. So you're getting a real lot for your money in this one. So they come to you literally as 3 separate stencils. So layer 1 pops the first part of the image down. And then they're all numbered, so the first one is there, and then we're going to bring in layer 2, and you can see how it starts to build the design there. We're going to do this with some ink in a second. And then layer 3 in this one, this is the radiant roses. It's literally just that background, and this is the piece that we're going to run through the machine and emboss over the top of the actual image. So don't be afraid to do that over something that you've already got on the cardstock. And I'm actually going to use, this is actually our Nina cardstock, but it's the Desert Storm. We don't tend to use it as often as the white,
No,
so I just thought,
we haven't had
why
it in
not
stock for
bring
a long
this
time.
out? Pardon?
I haven't seen it on a show for a very long time.
Yeah, I just thought, I was looking through and I thought, again, I wanted something a bit different. So I thought, why not? Let's use something a little bit different. And the opaque inks on here with that chalky finish just looks stunning. They really do. So I'm going to take my first layer and literally I've cut my cardstock. These stencils are 5 by 7 inches. So I've literally taken my cardstock and cut it down to that side. And what I'm going to do is pop the tape on the top and make like a little hinge. And this way you can do the inking and then you can have a peek and see if it's doing what you want it to do, but you know you're going to get it back in the same place. So again, we need those little daubers. I'm going to get those out again. And I'm going to choose pink for the roses. I'm going to bring, if anybody's got this one at home, I'm going to use the white pigment ink as well. And then I've got green for the leaves. So I've got a couple of shades of green for the foliage, a couple of shades of pink for the flowers, and then a little bit of white that we're going to do. We'll do the white first. I'm going to do through this sort of little spray of dots in the background. So again, literally using my finger daubers, I'm going to go straight into the ink there, load up the dauber, whoops, sticky, sticky. And then literally once we've got this in place, I just want to go through the little hole. So I'm going to grab again a piece of that. I use these a lot, I get through a lot of these. I'm just going to mask off that area because I don't want the white to come into where the leaf is there. So just mask that off and then literally push the dauber into those little spaces and then just get that ink down. So similar to how we applied ink on that first one with the hearts, I'm literally just pushing the sponge on the dauber through the gaps in the stencil. Now going back to the question that we had about the roller Joe, the brayer, if you're brayering over the top of this, the brayer is going to be level with the stencil, and I think you'd struggle to get it in. You need something soft with the little sponge applicators or the little eggs that we do, the little sponge eggs, to push it into those little gaps in the stencil. So anywhere we've got the dots, we're literally going to go, try not to get it on the other pieces, and then again just mask off where you don't want to get the ink and pop this through. Whoops. Again, all I'm doing is little tiny round circular motions, and it's just pushing it into that stencil. So just get all those little dots done first with the white, and it's very, very delicate, this effect with the pigment. If you wanted a stronger look, then I would go for your water reactive inks, and something on a smaller scale like this, you'd be able to use your quick dry inks as well.
Awesome.
But this is sort of, you get a very pastel effect on it. It's quite a nice finish. So again, I'm going to turn that artwork round so that I'm not sort of trying to get to places where I can't reach. And just push, all I'm doing is just pushing it round in a circle just to get through those little dots. And then when we can have a little look, because I'm going to use it on the hinge there, lift it up, and it's very, very subtle there, but you can see it on top of that, whereas we wouldn't be able to pick that up on white card. So then I'm going to change to the greens. So we pop the little dauber back, and I want my spring meadow, which is the light green, and the grasshopper. So I'm going to take the light one first. I'll keep my little mask just in case I need it. And the light one, I'm going to fill in now all the spaces that are the leaves. So again, make sure that's popped down in the right place, and just push this through into the gaps there. And the reason I've chosen two colours of green, again, is to just add that little bit of definition. All right, so make sure it's covering nicely. You can build up the layers of ink. So if it looks a bit pale when you first start, just go back in and build up that colour with another layer. And then we need to turn it around. I've got my fan on to keep me cool, and I'm actually eating my hair in the process. It's like blowing it across.
There's
lovely.
any calories in hair?
Pardon?
I wonder if there's any calories in hair.
Oh, I don't know. I hope not.
Carbs are in hair.
It's like, it's blowing lovely. It's keeping me nice and cool because we get very warm in here. But it's actually blowing my hair into my mouth.
You're like Beyonce with the wind machine over there.
So again, just get that there and there. And then I'm going to swap over to the slightly darker green, which is the mid-tone. And again, like we did with that first demo, I'm just going to flick from the bottom of the leaves to create some effect of some depth with the inks there. So just on the bottom there, excuse me, and then, oops, make sure it's not moved. Just again, all I'm doing is just dabbing and flicking with the little daubers where you think there'd be some sort of slightly darker elements. So that's our first layer done. Okay, so we can now take this one off, and you can see how we've got this, but as I say, it gives a gorgeous chalky finish on this cardstock. And then we're going to take layer number 2. So number 2 on the top, all right, always goes up in that top corner. I'm going to lay it over the top, and we've got the flowers coming into play now. Close the hinge again, and we've also got the veining on those leaves. Now I'm actually going to go over that with the pink just to make it stand out. So again, I need my pale tulip, pink tulip, and I think, do we want fuchsia or no? We'll go with plum jam. I'll take the dark one. So again, with the pink tulip, I'm literally just going to do the same again. So we're going to bring this through. And just be mindful, if there are any little parts of your stencil, like here where you've got these pieces that are sort of loose, make sure you're sort of working away from them,
Okay.
rather than sort of snagging them and snapping your stencil. So make sure you press over them and work away. The bits that are enclosed, you can go around in your circles, but just those little bits there, if you come too hard this way, you'll flick them up and possibly risk snapping them. So again, pop this one in, just literally rubbing it through in those circular motions again to get that ink down onto the card. Nice and light tone, this one. I just love the pastel effect of it. Turn it round and we're going to do the bottom one. So again, just doing exactly the same technique there. And then what we're going to do, we're going to pop the third stencil over the top of this one and actually emboss it through the machine to give it a little bit of texture over the top. So I'm not going to add any more ink colour. The way they were designed, and I'll talk you through that when we get this layer complete, they were designed to add another layer of ink to create your background pattern. So that's my light one there with the pink tulip. And then I'm going to bring in the darkest one, which is the plum jam again. And again, from the bottom of those flowers, I'm just going to flick a little bit on there just to create...
Love the idea of adding this to add texture.
Little bit of depth. It's just sort of, you know, flowers are not a flat, well, nothing's just a flat colour. And I'm not being careful. You can see there, I'm not thinking about where it's going to be. I'm not really being that careful. I'm just literally dragging it from the bottom of those shapes and just literally pop in. And once we've got the stencil off here, you'll see what I mean. It doesn't have to be, oh, well, this bit's light, so that bit needs to be dark. Don't overthink it. Just go for it and add a little bit of that in. And then I'm going to go with this darker one over the top of those veins as well. And you'll see it creates a really nice effect over the green just to get that, that colour into the leaves. Again, you could go with a darker green, you could go with a brown over there. But I quite like this dark pink over it. Gives a nice finished effect. So that's that one. And then when we lift this off now, just release that stencil. You can see now we've got that lovely, and can you see what I mean about it? It doesn't matter where that darker ink goes. It doesn't have to be perfect in the, well, if the sun's shining here, the shadow's going to be at the bottom, don't worry. And then just putting that pink onto the leaves just sort of brings them to life. Now, the way that these were designed, and again, going back to these, you can do exactly the same with this as I did with that first one to clean them off. So they will literally run under the tap. You can put, if you're doing a lot of work on them, you can have like a little water bath on the desk, so just a box with some water in. Pop them in water until you're ready to clean them. Or alternative, like I did with the baby wipe, you can actually push the colour off onto another piece of cardstock with both of those. Now, the third one was intended when it was actually designed to go over the top now. And where the gaps are, you could literally do this over the whole thing. But when I'm doing it as a stencil, I prefer to go round where the flowers are. So I can see my roses here. So I'd be filling in ink in the gaps around the edges to actually create the background. But what we're going to do with this is we're actually going to run it through the machine. And we're going to emboss that background detail onto it.
Awesome. Love that idea.
So we need our combination of plates minus the magnetic shim. Let me just remove the metal one. So whenever you're using an embossing mat, we never use the magnetic shim with it. So we're going to get that one out of the way. And again, I could only find the little small one, which is big enough for what I need. So in order to emboss then, and this is great in the fact that you can
we do this with all stencils, Jan?
Any stencil.
Okay.
Yeah, if you've got the Pro, you could even do those big stencils.
Brilliant.
Yep. So any stencil you've got will do this technique. So it's just about thinking about what order you need everything in. And as I say, this is the beauty about being able to watch us back. So if you can't remember the order that these are in, play it back and you can see us do it again. So I've got one of my clear plates and then I'm going to put the rubber mat on the bottom. Then you want your piece of cardstock with the stencil on top. And what's going to happen is the rubber mat is going to push the cardstock through the stencil. So it's going to bring the raised image up through my cardstock. If you had the cardstock facing down, it would deboss because it would push it up this way and the image on the front would be debossed. So whichever way you want it to go. So in this instance, I actually want it to be raised up through the image. So we're going to pop that one over the top there. I might just tape it to make sure it doesn't move. So literally line it up over the piece and I'm just going to tape it there so it doesn't move. And then you want your plastic shim and your top plate. So I've omitted that magnetic shim. The magnetic and the rubber mat should never be in at the same time. So what we're going to do is pass that through the Gemini. And because that rubber mat is nice and squishy, it's going to allow it to push it into that stencil. So just run that through there. And as I say, any of your stencils will do this. You can even do this with the die cuts. You know, like I die cut the animal and I did it a couple of times to make it a bit more give it some depth. You could actually run that through and emboss that as well. So it works with all the things. So let's just take that one out of there. Pop those to one side, and then it is very subtle. If I just take this off, just take the tape off. Now if we can get in and have a look at this, and just have a little zoom there. Which way do I need to come? That way. And you can just see in these edges where, well, you can see right across there. Can you see how it's embossed that design? There you go, look, over the top of it. And as I say, if you turn your card the other way, you'd get the deboss, so you'd get the lines going in instead of out, so whichever way you want to do it. But I just think it's something a little bit different. Now, I chose to leave mine like this, but you can actually catch the top of the embossing with your sponge applicator. So if you wanted to apply a little bit of colour just to make it stand out a bit more, you can just catch it lightly. You might want the gilding wax to just catch those areas a little bit. So many different ways. But again, once it's matted and layered up, you can see there I've just added a couple of decorations with some little sequins there. Exactly the same thing as what we've just done there.
Awesome. Right, I've got lots of questions coming in for you, Jan.
Yeah, I know. I'll stick it together while you're doing that, Joe. Yeah.
Nina says, to emboss again, you know we heat embossed on the big stencil earlier.
Yes.
Could you put the stencil back over and then add the sticky ink to the top of it again after you've done the pigment ink pad? Would that be a way of getting around it?
Absolutely, yes, you could. I would just go with the watermark ink at that point because you've got the colour from the ink. So I would just literally be going back through with my watermark clear ink then, because you don't need any more colour, you just want to build up the embossing powder. So this one will catch, but yeah, you can literally go straight through your stencils with the ink pad and squidge it over what you'd already done and then reheat, and it will start and create that sort of really glassy finish on it.
Love that. Karen wants to know, Jan, next visit, could we have pics of your home craft space? I bet you've got tons of nifty storage tricks.
I don't know whether I'm brave enough. I can print some pictures.
Is it messy or clean? Tidy or messy?
It's a nightmare. You'd think that there'd been a hurricane through it, Joe, honestly. If I showed it you as it is now, you would die, honestly.
Okay.
But I do have some photos of when I very first did it.
I'm too young to die, Jan.
Yeah, I know. It's a death trap. I walk in there and literally I'm climbing over stuff to get to my desk because there's so much stuff. And I very rarely have time in between shows to start and tidy anything up. My husband, he goes on about it. He's like, for goodness sake, he says, you're going to end up falling in there one of these days. But the trouble is when I go home tonight, I get up
all of those
morning.
prizes we just got out of the bottom of your craft room somewhere.
But when I get home tonight and then get up tomorrow morning, I'm back here again Wednesday, so I need to start prepping. I've got another craft along next week, so I need to start prepping again.
There's never any time to tidy, Jan.
It never gets, tidying up's like a waste of time.
Do you want to take Jake back with you for a couple of days?
So again, I've just stamped in the white there to keep in with that theme. Spring blessings on that one, just to pop a little sentiment on.
Wonderful.
You can see there.
Maybe this will be demo of the show.
So we've just got that really sort of, it's got like a really, I don't know, like an ethereal effect to it, I think, with that that sort of chalky ink on it. It's really sort of, I don't know, I can't describe it. I like it on that Desert Storm.
It's great, isn't it?
Different.
Really lovely.
Yeah?
Christine Behe wants to know if I stenciled my sweater. No, I didn't. These are patches that have just been stitched on. Hadassah says, how do you stencil with a die cut? Great question from Hadassah.
How do you stencil with a die cut?
Does she mean stenciling through the metal in order to add the detail?
I would always cut it out like we did with this.
Right,
so I would always die cut it and get to this point. So when we did this one earlier with the floral animals, regardless of what your die is, it could be an outline die, it could be a creator card die, it could be an edgeable, whatever it is you want to stencil, cut it out a couple of times in some scrap cards. So this is just our stamping card, which is 300 GSM. It's a good way. And I've done it twice and stuck them together to make my own stencil. And then, just like we've done with the others, you can take your chosen applicator, My box is, I thought it would lock me out then. So take your applicator and literally, just like we've done with everything else, you can push it through the cardstock just the same as you can with a stencil.
Brilliant. I hope
Not
that
got
helps.
the longevity that you would have with a stencil, because obviously this would need to be replaced now and again, whereas your stencil's made of Mylar, which will last you forever.
Awesome.
Yep.
Sally wants to know, how does Jan keep coming up with all these amazing ideas? We were just saying the same in the gallery.
Big sort of storage box in my head.
Marie wants to know, great question, will the schedule change after we change the clocks next Sunday in the US? It will. So let me try and work this out, right? So at the moment, the first show is midday in the UK, which was 7 a.m. for you guys on the East Coast. It will now become 8 a.m. So it's actually, everything slides back an hour for you. The 3 p.m. show, which was 10 a.m., becomes 11 a.m. for you guys on the East Coast. And the 7 p.m. show becomes a 3 p.m. show for you on the East Coast. For 2 weeks, until we have daylight saving in the UK, then our clocks go forward an hour and then everything goes back to where it was now. So yes, they will move for 2 weeks as of next Sunday. And then for 2 weeks, everything will be an hour later for you guys on the East Coast or the West Coast, wherever you are. And then it will actually go back again. Well, be it for East Coast guys, some people don't change at all, do they? No, like Arizona, for instance, they don't have daylight saving whatsoever. Honestly, it's a minefield, isn't it?
How do you know all this stuff, Joe?
I don't know.
It's like an encyclopedia.
I'm like a sponge for anything Eurovision or Time. Ask me to, get a pint of milk on the way home. Not a chance. But ask me about daylight saving times for Arizona. Oh, I'm there. I've got you. Ask me about San Marino's Eurovision entry. I've got you as well. Right, loads of some more questions still coming in. Would the dies cut stencil plastic? That's a great question from Anne in Connecticut.
The Gemini probably would. I think what I would be tempted to do there, let me have a think. I would treat it like acetate, and when I'm cutting acetate in the Gemini, I normally put another piece of cardstock with it so it's got something to grab. So it's not something I've tried, but I don't see there's enough pressure in the Gemini to do that. And if the thin metal dies won't cut it, the multimedia dies definitely would.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Great question though. I mean, if you had a really thick, like a craft cardstock, could you cut multiple layers, stick them all together to create something a bit more substantial,
yes,
Jan?
Yeah, that's all I've done with the stamping card. So anything that's a decent weight, and just stick them together to layer them up.
Awesome. I'm going to have to get through some of these comments, Jan, because, I mean, we're going to be here till 7. We're going to be here to the 7 o'clock show otherwise.
Go on then, fire them away.
Susan says she's never done stenciling, but this show is giving her great ideas, so thank you. Victoria's just ordered the starter kit. I'll run you back through that in a few minutes' time. Carol says, I'm new to Crafts Companion. I've watched the last 3 days and I'm absolutely loving it. Carol Brown, welcome to the club. Kathy sent in some pictures of her stenciling. We'll show those in a little while.
Yep.
Alison says, I have all the pigment ink pads, but I've never used them.
Ooh,
well,
I think
today
the
is
are one
the
of
day.
My favourites.
I hope today's the day. They're my favourite as well. Laurie says I have the Daubers in my cart. Michelle says you need to get that rotating design board, Jan. We need to get you one.
Yes.
Did you see it yesterday? There's a 12 by 12 one we launched last night. Ooh,
I haven't got my hands on one of those yet. I must admit, I've got that and the MIDI are still on my wish list.
It's a life change. It will change your life.
Yes.
Anywhere you
spin
go,
it round. I've used it when I've been here, but I've not got one at home in my craft room. I'm not sure there's space for one.
We'll send Jake back.
I need to build an extension on my extension.
Jane says the most appreciated part of your company is your shows and the demonstrations, your wonderful craft family you share with us. So thanks, you're welcome, Jane. Heidi says, I have my pack of craft paper and have been using it for lots of card bases. Need to try some stenciling on there. Crafting with Quilling Lady says, I'm glad I ordered the opaque inks yesterday. The plan for next week is to play with these stencils. Alison says she's loving Jan's teaching style. Donna also says, I have these stencils and floral animals, but I haven't used them yet. Watching this show makes me want to take them out and use them. Makes things look really lovely. Heidi says 2 colours in one stencil shape. So smart for that 3D effect. And Deline saying, so I need to buy more stencils as Janny is giving us all of the expert tips. Right, I've got through nearly all of them, Jan. Gosh, you are a chatty bunch today and I absolutely love it. Let me share with you some other stuff that's very busy. The sparkle inks are proving busy. It's a 9-piece collection that you've got in here, and you get the glitz and glamour, the forest glade and the perfect pastels in there. £23 or $34.50. We also have the aqua tints available for you as well. These are very busy. You get summertime, vintage chic and perfect pastels in there. Don't forget, spend it, save it, craft it. It's running until the end of today, meaning if you spend 25, you'll save 5, spend 50, you'll save 10, spend 75, you'll save 15. So make sure you grab a hold of that. I want to go back and reintroduce you to the introduction to stenciling because it is absolutely awesome. Now, you're going to get some liquid mediums in here, which are going to be perfect for you to use, great for backgrounds especially. So you've got your perfect pastel. These are your shiny sparkle inks. There you are. You're also going to get the aqua tints there in the vintage chic as well. You're going to get some crafty fun stencils, which is awesome. We're going to give you one of those stencil and stamp collections in here, as well as a brilliant stencil and embossing folder collection. I love that. I mean, it's so gorgeous. And we're going to give you some of the peonies. No, they are poppies. Some poppies in there as well. Not peonies, Joe. They're poppies, clearly. £40 or $55. Use your Club Inspire discount as well on that. Use that extra, craft it. Save, shop, save, buy, whatever it was called. Spend it, save it, craft it. I had it. How have I struggled with this so much? I'm overthinking. This is a prime example of overthinking it, you see, Jan. Spend it, save it, craft it. That's what you can take advantage of. Right, brilliant. Okay, let me run you through these. Now, I often think that a stencil and a stamp collection together, not really, Jan, two things you'd necessarily pair up, are they? Ooh. But it really works with
honestly, so much scope for these, yeah.
Really beautiful. So in there you've got Back to Nature, Life Happens, which is this one just here. You've also got as well this one, which is your music and lyrics. Happiness Blooms, I just showed you there as well. Make a Wish, Life is a Journey, and you've got It's Time as well, which is fantastic. So you can go for any of those. The great thing about these is if you want to get them as a Club Inspired Platinum, $28.51, $36.51 is your price there on those. Right, Jan, I'm going to dive back into these comments. Loads of questions still coming in, which I'll pop over to you in a little while. But what would you like to share with us next?
We're going to have a look at those stamp and stencil sets, Joe.
Awesome.
So again, you know, this is combining sort of my love of stamping with then extending it for the stencil backgrounds as well. So you get a bit of both in here. So I'm going to go with the Life is a Journey on this one. And again, I keep getting, seeing a lot of comments and keep getting questions about masculine cards. So this one I've made for the guys out there. And I'm thinking, you know, here in the UK, we've got Father's Day coming up in June. So this one was sort of thinking about them out there today. Rather than all my pretty pinks, I've gone completely different. So let's have a look then. Inside here, you actually get a 6x6 inch stencil. Let me get my cardstock again so that you can see. Here we go. That's a bit better, isn't it, on there? Just don't ignore the tape. I'll explain why that's there in a second. It comes nice and clean, yours. And then you get the stamp sets that coordinate with them. So in this case, we've actually got things that are relevant to the stencil. So you've got the map of the world on the stencil, and then you've got those sort of lines that create the globe effect. And then we've got a compass on there. And then some of the sentiments on there. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I just think they're really motivational. You've got a bon voyage on there. And then you've got life is a journey. Enjoy it. So really nice all-round sentiments to use there. So what I've done a little bit of prep on this one because I wanted to show you the texture paste because we normally talk through that, but I want to show you how it actually works today. So I've started out life again with some cream card this time, and this is similar to the stamping card. It's just some cream that I had in my stash. It's 300 GSM again, so I know it's up to the job for actually creating the layers that I want to put on it. And then what I've done is I've added background colour with the inks, and literally that was just what I call the mopping up technique, where you put your ink on the mat, mop it up, and literally create that splodgy background. And then you can see where I've used the brown, you can see where this map of the world has come in. So just like we've been doing with the other stencils, I've literally used the ink dauber with the darker ink now. We've gone on to I think this was Friar Brown, and gone through with those circular motions, and then I've just moved it about and picked out different areas that I wanted to stencil just to add another layer to the background. And then before we do anything else, I'm actually going to incorporate this little compass, or it's not a compass, is it? What's it called? Is it a compass? North, south, east and west. Yes, yeah. So I'm just going to grab one of my little stamping platforms, and I actually want to add a little bit of background detail on here. So I'm going to stick with the brown ink, and I've just chosen one of the finesse inks for this. It doesn't really matter what it is. It is a waterproof one because I'm going to add some other medium over the top of it. So all I want to do is literally stamp this, and I'm going to grab my stamping mat as well. Do you know everything? I'm going to have a tidy up down here. Everything's all over the place. So all I want to do, I'll put this to catch any overlay, because I'm going to stamp off the edge again. So again, building up the ink, and just in places, and it's about, again, this is almost touching on that mixed media that we were talking about the other week. It's building up those layers. The other question that I've seen as well on social media quite a lot is people saying about their stamps as well. So whenever you get an acrylic stamp set like this, or the photopolymer stamp set, when they first come to you, they have a coating on the back of them from manufacture. And sometimes I've noticed people saying that they're not getting a crisp image with their stamps. So again, just a top tip for that, when you first get them, one of the easiest ways of actually getting rid of that residue is a piece of sticky tape. Now the low tack tape, because it's low tack, doesn't do as good a job, so I tend to use proper sellotape. Pop it over here, peel it off, pop it on, peel it off, pop it on, peel it off. And what it does, it will take away the residue that's left on the stamp and then allow you to get a more crisp image. The other way of doing it is to actually prime it with the sticky watermark ink. So use this one first on your stamp and then go in with whatever colour you want to use, and again that will override that residue that's on them. So just a little follow-up on that. As I say, I've seen one or two people talking about the fact that they're not getting sort of a great image when the stamps, it's only when they're first used. Once you've used them, you don't have to do that every time. So let's have a look. I'm going for that rule of 3 again. We'll pop one just at the bottom there.
I thought it was rule of 6.
Rule of 6. I suppose that's double 3. I do tend to work in 3s. So on my crafting anyway. So here we go. So that was the compass. All right. So let me put that one back out of the way. That was my ink pad that I've used. Now going back to why this was masked off. All I've done is put some masking tape over here because we're going to use the lines here.
Anne says she believes that's called a compass rose.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't want what we're going to do here to seep into the map of the world. So literally that's all the tape's on there for. So let's get rid of those pieces. And then what I'm going to do is I've got, this is out of my stash again, but we should have it on the website. It's just a modelling paste. It comes in lots and lots of different formats. This particular one is a Pebeo one, but there are lots of brands out there. Some people call it texture paste, some people call it modelling paste. Oh yeah, I've heard it called texture paste. Yeah, it's all the same thing. Basically what it means is it dries raised. So it doesn't flatten out, it dries raised. Now this is white, but you can colour it with any of your watercolour mediums. So whatever you've got out there, whether it be a pen, whether it be paint, whatever it is you've got, and you just need a small amount of it. And then I've actually got some gold paint here that I'm going to put to keep in with the theme. And literally with my spatula, I'm just going to take some of the paint out. It's getting very low, that one. And I'm literally going to pop it into that texture paste and mix it in.
Could you mix this with some glitter paste if you wanted to?
You could, yeah. Cool. Or even ordinary glitter you could mix into it.
We've got the Sentimentally Yours glitter paste on the show, so click that Shop the Show button on the homepage, you'll see it there.
So all it's done is change the colour from the white to a colour tone that's actually going to work in there. So that is, and yes, producer Johnny, it was. Yes. He's just asking questions in my ear. I didn't know whether he wanted me to answer or not. So, just across there at the top then, I'm going to just do this at an angle. And all I'm going to do, again, you can put some, stick and spray. Stick and spray.
Stick and spray, yeah.
Yes, the non-permanent one. Yeah, on the back there if you want to. I always get them. I'm like you with this, whatever it was, spend it, save it. Yeah.
At least you can do it. See, spend it, save it, craft it first time off the bat.
But bring me to stick and stay and stick and spray is a different matter. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this and literally, it's like buttering your toast. So again, if you prefer to stick it down, you can, but you're going to lay it down and literally just, it really is as if you're buttering your toast. Lay it on there and drag it through the stencil. And the idea is because it's the texture paste, it will stay the same height as the stencil when it dries. So you're actually giving sort of some more layers. As I say, we're almost touching on that. Well, we're definitely touching.
I love how you've got the perfect amount there, Jan. You must have done that many times before.
It's just practice, Joe. Doesn't always work like that. Sometimes I end up with loads of it left.
Like when I cook spaghetti, I cook spaghetti for about 16 people just for one person. It's the same kind of thing. Look, you've managed to nail it there.
But yeah, if I had too much, Joe, going back to that, you know how we did the background at the beginning with the spare ink? All I would do is do this on some spare cardstock so that I could maybe chop it up and use it in another project. But once this is done, literally be gentle with your stencil, and you're just literally going to take it away, and then this wants to go into some water ideally because it will dry on the stencil. I'm going to show you a quick way of doing it when you haven't got the water handy. But we can see on here now where we've got that sort of, it looks flat there, but it is actually the depth of the stencil. If I just tip it, can you see how it's got some sort of yeah, the stencils are about, I would say maybe 1 mil, 2 mil thick. So you're getting that texture in there. And if I bring in the one that's dry, because this one needs about a good half an hour or so or more to dry, maybe even an hour to dry on there. But obviously the one that I've done this one at home, and I've put a band across here, and it's got that feel to it now. Because it's raised, it's got that little feel to it. So again, because I've got it on here and I haven't got access to any water, what I'm going to do is just pop it onto here again, and using the good old baby wipe. If you're not a fan of baby wipes, you can use, in fact we'll get a clean one, Jan. You can use just a piece of soft towel with some water on, because again we're all water based, and I'm going to rub it through here. Now there's not a lot left on there because I did use sort of pretty much the amount that I needed, but you can see the impression on there again. And again, you know, you can leave these to dry and use these as backgrounds. You can stamp over the top, you can chop into them, but just for the sake of TV, I'm actually going to wipe this up and get rid of it because I don't want to lean in there. So let me just get this, and this is the beauty of having your glass mat. It literally just wipes off and we're good to go. So we've got that piece now that's dry. So we're going to work with this one. Oops, I've got a little bit up there. And again, I've made it into a project for you. So I've taken 2 pieces of cream cardstock, and my card is actually going to be a 7 by 7 inch card. So this section here is 7 by 7, and then I've added on 1.5 inches on either side. So I've got 1 piece for the back and 1 piece for the front, and then I've rounded the corners on here and scored them at that 1.5 inch mark. And what I'm going to do is fold these on the inside like so, and then stick them together. So when I open it, I've got a little section in the middle. Okay. And I've just put tape around the outside because I want this section to be able to have something slot in the middle there. Okay, so we're going to put that together first. So I've literally just used some of my very thin red line tape there, and we'll just stick that together. So I don't want the top, this inside edge to stick. I literally just want the outside. So I'm going to pop them together like so, flick that one inside, oops, and that one inside, and make sure they're lined up, and just squeeze those and give them a burnish round that edge. So we've created like a little pocket in the inside now where you can actually pop, she says. It is open, honestly. There, look. Yeah?
Awesome.
Okay. And then for the inside, I've created a matten layer, and I've used, you can see where I've used that compass again, and the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So that's going to be my sort of sentiment inside here. And you've got a place to write there if you want to write your own little message in there. And then we're going to use the one that we've built the texture paste up for the front. Okay, so that one's going to go inside like so. So again, mats and layers are just cut that little bit smaller, usually 1/4 of an inch increments. And again, this is just paper out of my stash that went with the colour scheme that I was using. And then on the front, I've done the same again. You can see where I've cut the middle out because I particularly like the paper. I've taken the middle out of it so that I can use that on something else because I don't want to waste it under that, that focal piece. So just the collal to stick these into place now. Because I'm working cardstock to cardstock, we're going to pop these in place. Okay, give that one a chance to just set, and then we're going to bring this one as our main front piece on there. So again, we'll stick with the collal because we're just working with cardstock onto paper there. This would be my choice every time. If you want to use your tape runners, you can. If you prefer to use the finger lift tape, whatever your preference is, just make sure we get the map the right way up, Jan. There we go. Otherwise, we'll be falling off the edge of the world. So again, we've got our map in the background. So again, that was all about building up the layers in the background and then just giving that time for that glue to soak in and adhere to that piece underneath. And then what I've done is I've stamped out the little compass again, and this time I've done it with a little bit of gold embossing powder just to make it stand out. I've also gone through my stash and found a Happy Father's Day stamp, which I've stamped out. Okay, so I hope my stepdad's not watching. I don't think he will be, because this might be coming his way.
Well, let's hope not.
So this one's going to go... Pardon?
He might be, you never know.
He might, you never know. And then I've got a little bit of that foam. Look at this, oh, I'm in love with that big sheet of foam. We're going to pop that on as an accent. All right, and then the bit in the middle, I hadn't got one, so I made my own. But if you want to send Dad a gift card for Father's Day, this one just slots in the middle there, and you've got that bit in the middle.
That's awesome.
Okay, so a bit more masculine sort of feel to that one for the people out there that were asking for guys' cards.
Brilliant, absolutely love that. 3564 or 4564. Now I know we're going to try and squeeze another demonstration in before the end, Jan.
Yep.
But should we vote on the card of the show so far?
That we've already done so far.
You could pop if you've got to finish one of the last one, you could pop it in if you wanted to. If you wanted to have it included, it's up to you. If you don't want to shatter the illusion, then that is also fine.
Not actually stuck together the last one. So
let's just vote on the ones that you've done thus far.
Oh, don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do that!
Let me read some comments because there's still loads coming in.
That one's wet.
Mary says Jan has the best tips. She could write a book of just tips and techniques. Candice says I do have the background stencils and the focal stamps. I love them. Leela says these are great deals on the stencils. Candice says I agree with Jan. Stencils make great masculine cards. Rebecca saying the sticky watermark tip is brilliant. I've started doing it and it is fab. Sonia says I have this collection. I made a tag for you, Joe. Oh, Sonia, you're too kind. You always talk about loving a tag and glitter, so I thought of you whilst I made it. I love a tag and I do love glitter. You are right. Ramona says Jan is absolutely amazing. I always learn so much. Thank you so much. And Joe is quite knowledgeable. Thank you.
He is very knowledgeable.
Thanks, quite knowledgeable. I'll take that. Hadassah says, oh my snickerdoodles, Jan, this technique is amazing. I love mixed media projects, so I want to try this on MDF with those dreamies. One from the other day.
Definitely.
Great idea. Right, we're ready to vote then, or let's have a look at what is in the running, Jan. So.
Right, so we started out at the top of the show then with those big 12 by 12 stencils.
Brilliant.
So that was project number 1.
Let's call that one hearts then in that case, if that's all right.
Pardon?
Hearts, we'll call that one.
Or just number 1, whichever. Yeah,
well, the thing is, Johnny has to remember which number was which otherwise, and it all ends
hearts,
in tears.
Then we'll go for that one. Yeah, so that was the first one. Then we'll call the next one Wolf then, because this was the stenciling through the die cut there. All right, so we'll call that one Wolf. That was the second demo. And then we better go for Roses then for number 3, because that was the pastel inks, those pigment inks on that Desert Storm cardstock there. Okay, and then we'll go for, shall we have map for this one or world? What do you want?
Let's go with map.
Map?
Yep.
All right, or even Father's Day, whichever. Yep. That was number 4. All right. So I have got another demo, but I've not got it finished, so it's not stuck together yet.
Right, get voting in the comments. Rachel is our social media superstar today, so she will be our independent adjudicator. Right, lots of you have been sending in pictures, which we love. Roslyn has stenciled her pegboard. What a great idea, Jan.
Excellent. Look at those. Do you know
Love
that
that.
you get, it's one of those things, Joe, that once you've had a go with it, you'll start thinking, what else can I stencil? What else can I put it on? What other medium can I put it on? Yeah, it really is sort of go for it.
Awesome. Kathy's been using the outline dyes.
Beautiful.
Love that
Oh,
effect.
just like we did with the wolf. Excellent. Well done, Kathy. Yep.
Kelly's done a scrapbook page with that big stencil like we talked
Just
about.
what, do you know, it's as if they were listening to what I was saying, isn't it? That looks gorgeous at the back of there, doesn't it, as a feature behind that photograph?
Really brilliant. Lovely way of
Beautiful,
using
Kelly,
that.
yep.
Right, whilst you get ready for your next demo then, Jan, let's share with everyone the details of how you can watch and shop at the same time. Hi, I'm Joe from Crafters TV, and I'm here to show you how you can grab the best deals and shop whilst you watch during our shows. So the best way to watch us is always on Crafters TV. Head on over to our homepage and go to Crafters TV. You can see all of our shows, offers, and even shop while you watch. Now if you want to get involved and comment along, head over to our Facebook page. Come say hello, ask us some questions, and lol with us. Or you can watch us on YouTube. Simply head to our Crafters Companion YouTube channel. Got a smart TV? You can even AirPlay directly onto your big screen. We're constantly adding new and exciting shows to our schedule, so don't forget to check in. It's never been easier to have us in your living room. It's always fun here at Crafters TV, so come join us as we create every day. Absolutely, we do create every single day here. Lots of you still chatting away. Ramona, you've really reminded me of pizza, right? Because there's this new pizza place opened up in Manchester called Ramona that does Detroit-style pizza. Jan, have you ever seen a Detroit-style pizza? Yeah. Oh, put your hands up for Detroit. Honestly, it is like really thick. And it's kind of baked in like an open top box.
Oh, wow.
So it's like really thick and like focaccia, and then with loads and loads and loads of toppings on top.
It's making my mouth water.
Like a Chicago pizza, you know, they're really like a dish, aren't they? It's like that, but it's all really thick. And they also do Detroit cookies dipped in hot toffee sauce. I mean, Ramona, you are doing all kind of things to me today. And Anik says, just joining from Belgium. I hope I can catch up with what is going on. I hope you can too. It's lovely to have you in, Anik. Aish saying as well, love that Jan is a waste not, want not crafter, saving every possible way and extending her materials, especially the paper. Well, I think Jan is going to have to make that Father's Day card again if she wants to send it herself, because it looks like it may end up being the card of the show at this rate, Jan. Right, I know we've got about 15 minutes left, just under Jan left on the show. I need to show you. Which ones am I showing, Johnny? Are we doing these ones? Awesome. So, Delicate Dandelions. This is the stencil and the embossing folder together. I was just having a lovely time. I didn't realise I had to do actual work, Johnny, as well. The floral, I just had a lovely time watching Jan at the moment. We've got the floral butterflies here. You've also got the hummingbird, which is not a kingfisher. Johnny very much taught us why very recently. This one is the beautiful lilies here as well. You've then got the lovely roses. And finally, you've got the precious poppies in there as well. $44.99 or $58.27 if you want to get those there. I believe this is your final demonstration, is it, Jan?
It is, yes, and we're gonna do something different again. You know me, it's like I never go for the norm. So we're going to use those beautiful lilies this time, and in this one you actually get a 3D embossing folder. So, you know, you've actually got the means to emboss whatever it is you want to emboss, even if it was just a piece of mirror card or something like that. You don't have to use it with the stencil. But you also get 2 layers of stencil, a little bit like we did with the roses, where they layer on top of each other. But this time they actually fit to layer on top of the folder. So let me show you what I mean by that. So back to that stamping card again, you know, which we should actually be renaming all-purpose card, I think, because we can use it for so many different things, not just stamping. But you want something that's got a smooth surface. And this time we're actually going to go with, I've gone for the water reactive inks for this one because I want to use water with it. And I've gone for the lilacs this time. So I've got the pale fig, crushed velvet, and then I've actually picked up grasshopper for the leaves. All right. So I'm going to go what we call direct to paper this time. So my pale fig, I'm literally going to colour my piece of cardstock. Let me just, yeah. One side of your stamping card is slightly smoother than the other. Yes. On it is it's a fraction, but I do tend to sort of go for the smoother side. It's barely distinguishable, but there is, if you feel at it, there is actually a slight difference between the two sides of the card.
Are we okay with ink pads? We don't need to worry about damage your ink pads in any way when we do this, no?
Because the water reactive ones are a felt pad. I wouldn't do this as much with the spongy ones.
Okay.
But this is a hard felt pad on here. So literally just going straight. Mine's actually, I think it's running out a little bit, to be honest. I think I need some ink in it. It looks as if it's drying out a little bit, mine. It should be a bit juicier than this. It should go on a lot easier.
Should it cover?
So absolutely sort of coat it this time. The more ink you get on there, the better this technique will work. Okay, so literally make sure you're pushing it into the fibres of the card and go over it a couple of times to make sure it is literally saturated with that water reactive ink. Okay, so don't worry about what it looks like, because we're going to do all sorts of things to it again. So job number 1, we're actually going to pop it in the embossing folder. Now it doesn't have to be 100% dry. Don't worry about the fact that you've got ink on it, because actually slightly damp card embosses even better than dry card. So just be mindful of which way around your folder is. So I've got the raised element at this side to push up through my cardstock and meet that recessed side at the top. So again, 5x7 folder, and I've just cut my cardstock down to the size that I want to fit in there, and we're actually going to emboss this. And again, when we're using a 3D folder, we just need to be careful of that series of plates. So we want a clear plate and the magnetic shim to start building up the depth. And then I'm going to use my plastic shim as the top. I'm going to actually move that second glass clear one. We don't need that second top plate, just for the 3D folder. So then we're going to pop it through our Gemini and emboss into that lovely purple cardstock.
Fantastic.
And then the technique comes.
We've got a new viewer watching from the first time from Newfoundland in Canada. I absolutely love the map card. Charlene. Hello, Charlene. Pleasure to have your company. Mary can't wait for her water reactives to arrive. And Patty says she loves how the embossing folders and the stencils together turn out.
So again, that 3D embossing, we've got lots of different things going on. So you've got that lovely sort of almost like brickwork in the background there. And then we've got the lilies with that lovely sculpted effect on there. So this in its own right, you know, could just be your piece of artwork that you're working with. The ink's not transferred to the folder. If it does, if any does transfer, again, it's all water-based, so it'll just wipe off there and clean up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the we've got two parts of the stencil. We've got one that's very open, and then you've got one that's actually sort of like the highlights that fits over the top. So I'm going to take the one that's very open to start off with, and just like we did with the others, and I've lost the end of my tape. Where's it gone? Oh, it's been naughty. Oh, I've got no chance of finding that.
Oh,
hang on.
Oh.
It's on my side.
Yeah,
well, this of it is anyway, that'll do. As long as I've got a bit. I'm going to put it like we did with the other one, but this time I want to find the pattern underneath. So you can actually see where the petals are and where it's raised, and I'm lining up the detail with the stencil so that it's showing through there. And then what I'll do is just stick it down on the back there so that it stays in place. And then I'm going to take another baby wipe, all right? So you want something that's quite damp. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to rub through the stencil with the baby wipe. And this is where your water reactive inks really come into play. So again,
so you're almost rubbing it out a bit.
Yeah, it's basically bleaching it out. So just gently, because you don't want to take the surface of your cardstock off. If you rub at it, it will start and bring the bits of the card up and it goes all bobbly. So just gently stroking it and applying the moisture to it. But this is where the water reactive inks get their name from. So any of you that's used the Ranger Distress inks will be familiar with this kind of technique. Now these were made to sort of do a similar kind of thing. My baby wipe's actually drying out, would you believe, under the lights. So again, each of the sections So keep moving the baby wipe around, because obviously the heat from your finger is starting to dry it. So it wants to be wet. And if need be, you can dab it into a little bit of water. If it does dry out too much, dab it into a little bit of water and just get it moist again. So all through that stencil this time. And this actually could be just the effect on its own. But you will need your water reactive inks for this. It won't work with the quick dry, and it won't work so well with the pigment inks, okay? And then when we lift this stencil away this time, you'll see that we've created almost like a faux bleaching.
That's really classy, isn't it?
And that is literally showing your water reactive inks, as I say, at their best. They're actually designed, Leanne put a lot of work into the Spectrum Noir range of inks to actually make sure that they did what they were supposed to do. And this is actually what they're designed to do, to work with the water, bleach it out, and you get that sort of that highlighted effect. Now you could leave it there. So you could actually just leave it as that being your finished project with just that first stencil. But if you bring in the second stencil now, we've actually got the means of adding a highlight to it.
Ooh.
So it does need to be dry to do this. So I'm going to bring in the one that I actually did earlier, but I'll talk you through what I did. I've literally, where the flower is, I've used the crushed velvet, gone back to my finger dauber again and just gone through the flower parts. And then on the foliage parts, I've used the grasshopper, both water reactive again. I've stuck with the same inks onto here, and you end up with this as a finished sort of sample here. So can you see how it's when it's dried? This is the same colour ink, believe it or not. It's just that this is saturated through the card when we put the ink on. So letting it dry, you're getting more of the pale fig colour that we're actually used to rather than that darker shade. And the white actually becomes even more pronounced. And it reminds me, for any of you out there that do the parchment work, it reminds me of that, where you actually work on the back of the parchment and do the white work. But you can see how the colours have just highlighted it that little bit. Or alternatively, again, going back to that glitter paste, if you have got any glitter paste at home, I've used that second stencil, and you can see there where it's literally just picked up those highlights, and we've got that white work in the middle with the glitter, that glitter paste just round the outside there. So different ways of doing it. I'm going to use the coloured one for my my finished project, and what I've done this time, again, just to try and change it up and make it a bit different, is I thought we'd go for a little bag this time. So I've just got, I buy these from one of our local pound shops, and they come in sort of packs of about 6 or 7. Let me just get rid of some of this out of the way. And what it's done is I've made a matten layer for it using one of our paper pads. Just some scraps left over from other projects, and then I've got a doily there that was lying around. I've cut in half. I'm going to use
Lovely.
that on there as well. So we'll stick this on the back. I think I'll use my my tape pen this time for this one. So again, you can see where I've taken the middle out of my lovely pearlescent card. It depends what it is and how much I've got of it. If I've got loads of it, I don't tend to bother taking the middle out. But if it's something that I'm getting low on, I'll cut out the centre so that I've got a bit spare to use again. And also, it takes some of the weight out of your project as well. Depending on what it is you're making, it does take a bit of the weight out of it. So that's been made just a slightly bit smaller than the actual bag. Okay, how are we doing for time?
We've got about 3 minutes left.
Excellent, that should just be enough then. And then again, I've got a matten layer for our piece of stenciling that we've done. So again, we'll go with a little bit on the back of anything that's been embossed. The collal glue works brilliantly because it actually soaks into the back. You know, we talk about the sculpted areas where the embossing is here. The collal will soak into the back of there, and you'll get a really good stick.
The winner of the card of the show is the map, Jan.
Is
the
it?
map. You will have to be remaking that.
I'm going to have to remake it.
You'll be remaking it for your father-in-law. You will indeed. So yeah, the map is the winner.
Excellent. Okay, as I say, I sort of I've usually got one eye on social media during the week. The other thing I will say, actually, while I'm just sticking this together, I know last week when I was here, I made the star book with the Knitwits Grace
Someone's
and Bloom.
literally just asked whether the measurements have been posted somewhere
Yes,
for that.
I know there's 1 or 2 people messaged me about the measurement. The problem is because it won card of the show, it stayed here. So when I went home, I never thought about taking the measurements off it, and I didn't want to guess. So I actually have had it off the shelf, And here we go. Look, I've actually written the measurements down, ready, and I will put those on my Facebook page either later today or tomorrow for you. So I haven't forgotten, it was just that I didn't actually have access to it.
Awesome.
So I know 1 or 2 people have messaged me and said, can you put me the sizes on?
Wonderful. I'm just going to quickly recap some of the items on the show whilst you finish that off, Jan, if that's all right. The introductory kit, very, very busy on that. £40 or $55. You've got your spritzers, your eggs in there. You've got your embossing folder and stencil. Your stencil, it's loads in there for you, £40 or $55. The flanimals are very busy as well. Those floral animals, $31.96 or $44.98 for those. Don't forget about those mahoosive large stencils. There is actually 8, not 9 of them there. $47.94 or $49.70. You buy 6, you get 2 free. We also had these. These are an absolute steal. 4 of these for £11.18 or $16.78. Right. Second Chance Sunday coming up soon, Jan. That's going to be exciting.
I know. Got some more things on there. Oh, we've got the country village on there later.
Oh, I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I love it. Honestly, I've had a chance to play with those this week. So yeah, so just opening the bag up there, and again, I'd probably pop a little bit of ribbon around the handle to close it, but again,
Beautiful.
just a different way of using them.
Really gorgeous. What a wonderful craft class it's been, Jan. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. If you've missed any of it, you can watch it back at any point over on our website. Don't forget as well to check out your baskets as well, and make sure you join us back here in a couple of hours' time. We're up at 7 p.m. here in the UK, which is 2 p.m. East Coast time, 11 a.m. West Coast. Massive thanks to Jan. Big thanks to you guys at home as well. See you in a couple of hours.